right. We are back again for the third round of the Retention Retox Retreat. And I am joined by Monica Lin, Senior Director of Brand Marketing at Culture Kings.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's
Thank
wonderful
you.
to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, we had an opportunity to catch up a little before the segment, and your background is just incredible. I think that having an opportunity to work with Culture Kings as a brand and for a founder like Simon, larger than life, must be, I should say, a really exciting experience for a brand marketer. But I'd love to learn a little bit more about your background and how you got into, that industry or this part of marketing and brand specifically. If you could walk us through, kind of your career to this point. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, definitely. So I was going to school for communications and psychology. And at the time, I was a big fan of streetwear. And this is like over a decade ago. And, I was hanging out on Fairfax a lot, which is, as you might know, is kind of like an OG streetwear mecca. That's where like the Supreme store was and all of these really cool streetwear brands that were really just starting to come up. And it was still very much like a niche. So, back then one day I was just kind of clicking around on Twitter and I realized there was a brand that was looking for an intern. So I decided to apply to intern, and the rest is essentially history because, I eventually became the marketing director for that brand. And I never intended on getting into marketing, as I'm sure many marketers can relate. Sometimes when you're younger, you just don't realize that that is a career path. And so, yeah, I was very fortunate to just be able to get that experience. I was like one of the founding team members and really built that brand from the ground up. And then, kind of in that time period, I built a lot of really great relationships and partnerships that I still am working with today. So, that's definitely one of the things that I am most proud of, is just the relationship building from over the years. And then, yeah, eventually, I moved on to various kind of different marketing roles, and, helping different brands with their brand marketing and rebrands and all that kind of good stuff. And I was working at a women's D2C brand. And, I had at the time started to think, oh, I want to, I'm a big foodie and I love, trying restaurants and all that kind of stuff. So I took on a marketing director job in the kind of F&B hospitality industry. And, my former boss from the women's brand, he reached out to me and he said, hey, I've joined this company called Culture Kings, and I'm going to start building their US business, and, would love for you to meet the founder, Simon. So, and his name is Aaron. So Aaron and I and Simon all got on a call, and mind you, I had just taken this new role maybe like 2 weeks prior, and they were like, you have to come here. Like, this is perfect for you. You have a history working in streetwear, and, this is such a great niche for you. And they just did the full court press. Basically, as you guys probably know, Simon's quite convincing as well. And yeah, here I am 3 years later. So we've done some really incredible things that I'm definitely very proud of. We've built a really amazing team from scratch. When I started, there were 2 other people on the US team. And, now we've got definitely a little bit more than that. Yeah, we're just, cranking out some amazing products and collections, obviously really amazing content. We're very digital first, as you know, and we've done some really amazing things like launch a flagship store in Vegas at the Caesars Palace, and done some really incredible events and partnerships, especially in the last couple of years. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And to be a fly on a wall in the conversation when Aaron and Simon were closing Monica, I'm sure would have been an exciting place to be. How did you know you were on the right path? Like, is there a moment that you think back to in any of those early marketing experiences where you felt the gears catch and you're like, oh, this is my path. This is where I belong.
Yeah, I think, it's hard to pinpoint one moment. I think it just started becoming this sort of, I don't want to say it's a phase, but, I started having a lot of different opportunities that, we essentially were all as a team kind of waking up every day and being able to say, hey, this is what, we want to do, or here's who we want to partner with, and essentially just going out to make it happen. There was never like a blueprint. There wasn't like anyone telling me, hey, this is like what you should do. I think when you're building a brand, it takes that sort of drive. It's very scrappy. It's very entrepreneurial. Like you have to think outside of the box. And, of course, as a brand in our industry, whether, it's Culture Kings or any other brand, when the customer goes to a store or they're online shopping, they have all these different choices. So, like, how can you do things differently that tap into their emotion and what can they feel like they're a part of to make them want to buy into your brand rather than some of these brands that have been around for 10, 20, 30 plus years, right? So, it's an interesting challenge, but I think, just being able to kind of wake up every day and dream big and go make it happen, I think that is what sort of drew me to brand marketing, and really just like the storytelling aspect of it, I think is really fascinating. And yeah, again, you're kind of like, I always look at it as, if we have a coffee table book, what is going to go into that coffee table book a decade plus from now, right? So yeah, I think we're just adding to the coffee table book.
The coffee table book is striking visuals. Had an opportunity to see a little bit of your portfolio when we had a prep call, and the brand is so vivid. Like the visuals are so striking, and I'm curious to hear a little bit about how that all evolved and how you decided what that was going to be, why that was going to be, and how did you execute on the answers to some of the profound questions that you just, work through? Like,
Mhm.
how are we going to build a community in a space and an area for our customer to emotionally relate and connect? That's pretty deep. Like, how does it come to life in reality? And all the people, the blood, sweat, tears, and years that go into that.
Yeah.
Um, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So the process of just kind of like building a brand and building that community around the brand and building that connection even between just like digital content and in real life activations. It's not an easy, thing to answer because there's so many different aspects of it, but I think at a the boiled down version is that you want to be where like the customer is at, right? Do they go to music festivals? Do they go to sporting events, right? Do they go to the anime expo? Do they go to Comic-Con? And we're working on things like Complex Con. Like we want to be where they are. And I think especially with the way social media has evolved so much just even in the past 5 years, it, there's not there really aren't any limitations, right? It's so easy for people to have access to travel and going to these different events and, any sort of interest or hobby you might have. You realize there's so many other people out there who do have that as well. So I think obviously the brand's called Culture Kings. I think it's very important to us to very much like be a part of that culture, be supporting the culture, whether it's like, supporting upcoming designers and talent and supporting upcoming music artists. I think that sort of emerging space is like really important to us. And then we like to kind of grow with them. And, kind of to your point about the sort of paper trail or digital trail that we've left with all of the different projects and collabs and events that we've done, it is very larger than life. It is very vivid. It's very colorful because that's, what that's what people want to be a part of, right? That's something that's like exciting. It's something that, they can relate to. It's something that's very immersive. So yeah, we try to, think outside of the box because the market is so saturated. You just by default have to do things differently. And when you think about like the traditional retail experience, which is something that, we have talked about, it's just very transactional. And I think, again, it goes back to like what sort of value can you add to the customer or the audience? Like how can you tap into their emotion? How can you tap into the experience and what can they walk away from thinking, wow, that was so dope. Like that was so cool. I want to do it again. Or that's not something that I've ever got a chance to do prior to that. So
How did you develop the courage for that? Like, one of the things that is very obvious to me about Culture Kings is how comfortable it is as a brand not following the rules, not prescribing to the norms. I have the sense that you're driving a lot of that behind the scenes, and as a fellow marketing leader, there's a lot of weight, I think, to the responsibility of how things are going to be perceived, and not everything works. And you're taking risks, big ones, I think, in the market on a fairly regular basis. Like how did you develop a comfort level with that?
Yeah. I think just being able to develop, I guess, a certain comfort level or the courage, as you said, to be able to take risks, and these are strategic risks, right? There are ways to measure success for many, marketing initiatives, but there's also, just in my experience, a certain level of like kind of going with your gut and knowing when to, again, take these strategic risks, and knowing that if something doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. But I think our team just has very much of that sort of X factor and good instinct, knowing, okay, this may or may not work, but we're all willing to try it. And I think we've developed such an amazing culture at, no pun intended, at Culture Kings within the team, because we have these very entrepreneurial people on the team, and who are, again, very scrappy and very willing to kind of experiment and take risks. And, when you are doing things differently, can be intimidating because no one else is doing it. And sometimes, like, I find myself, when we're planning certain activations or partnerships, and you're looking for references, because a lot of partners will say, oh, can you show me like what you guys were talking about? And it might be a little difficult because you might not be able to find any references. And so we've gotten to a place where we do have people on the team who are like creating renders and kind of, taking these little sketches and making them into visuals. But, at the end of the day, you just have to do what other people aren't willing to do. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But when it does work, it's well worth it.
Two follow-ups come to mind. First, like, is there an example of an activation or, a campaign that you concepted that illustrates kind of that ethos of willingness to push boundaries and willingness to take risks at the brand level? I'll start there.
Yeah. I think one sort of launch that we did that does come to mind is our collaboration with McLaren Racing and Mitchell and Ness. And last year, for the first ever Las Vegas Grand Prix for Formula One, we did this really amazing in-store activation. We brought in a McLaren race car in store, so people could see it close up. We had these simulators in store as well, so people could really actually drive the Las Vegas track. And then we obviously launched a product collection, and we had an in-store appearance from Lando Norris, who's on the McLaren racing team and has a ton of success in the past like year or so. So that is definitely a highlight, I think, for myself and for the team, because it was truly just like bringing the entire experience together. And product was almost not, it was a way to obviously promote the product without promoting the product, without saying, hey, come buy this, right? Everyone just wanted to be a part of it because, you have the talent, you have the activation, you have the event, there's so much sort of like buzz happening at the same time. And again, this is happening during a time where so many other brands and talent are all activating in the same market, in the same spaces, in very close vicinity. And how do you do something that's different? And I think I'm also very fortunate that, we have such an amazing space inside of Caesar's Palace at the Forum Shops. And, the Culture Kings flagship is 22,000 square feet. There are 2 floors. The ceilings are like 30 feet high. So it's amazing, right? And it's not, again, not the typical retail experience, but with a space like that, how do you capitalize on it and how do you leverage that? And that's something that we think about every day. And I very much encourage, the rest of our team to always think outside the box. And, when we have brainstorm sessions, it does get a little crazy because, sometimes they are just shooting for the moon. But, I'm very much a believer in that, right? Like, let's shoot for the moon and let's do something different. And, I would say 9 out of 10 times, the people that we work with, the brand partners or talent, they're so excited about it because it's not anything that they've done before.
That's incredible. The second follow-up was around fostering that culture, again, no pun intended, from a leadership perspective. How have your leaders given you space, given you freedom, given you autonomy and backing
Yep.
to go take those risks? And then how are you, and you spoke to this a little bit, but like
Mhm.
pushing that down through your teams as well?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So John Yeska, who is our president, he's the president of the US business. He is extremely well connected, well respected within the industry. He's definitely very well loved by our team. And I've had, amazing fortune of being able to work with him. And I'm very grateful that he is kind of steering the ship because I guess to kind of describe his leadership style is it's the opposite of like micromanaging, right? Like he's very much a big picture visionary and I think he has a very deep understanding of brand. And obviously so do I and we're very much brand people. And I think that definitely kind of it kind of influences the team because the team, they're all also kind of thinking in this very brand forward mindset. Because Culture Kings is really unique in the sense that it's both a retailer, it's a retailing brand, but we also have a portfolio of brands like Loiter, Carre, St. Morta that, we have built to really stand on their own 2 feet, right? And oftentimes people don't know that these brands are essentially owned by Culture Kings and within the portfolio because they have been built into standalone brands. So I think our team, again, I'm very proud of it because they all have this like deep understanding of brand and being able to not only sort of understand the commercial aspect of the business, but also the storytelling aspect of it, the community building aspect of it, being able to be at the forefront of innovation when it comes to content. If you watch, any of the Culture Kings content, it's very fast paced, very exciting. It's very, that's what, when you see something like that, you're like, oh, this looks like Culture Kings, right? So that's something that has been very intentional, I think, on our part. And again, yeah, every day we get up, whether we're working from home or we're going to the office or we're setting up for a festival, everyone's going into it with the mindset that, we're going to do something disruptive. We're going to do something that is against the grain and we're going to do it. We're going to always, 10 out of 10 times, we're always going to go above and beyond.
Well, I mean, it performs and it stands out and it's memorable. It's clearly working. The experiential, the very unique retail space. That's a sick racing jacket too. I think about the like the secret room in your retail space and just like all of the incredible jackets that are housed there in different pieces of collectible
Mhm.
apparel. I'm spinning out a bit though. Like outside of the incredible physical location and just like the brand ethos and
Mhm.
reputation that you've constructed, like how does that translate into other mediums and channels? Like how are you fusing digital? How are you thinking about delivering all of the brand goodness through other channels and specifically digital ones?
When we do have these experiential activations, whether it's in the store or we're doing a Rolling Loud festival or a Summer Smash festival, it's always at the forefront of our minds that we're also capturing this like really incredible and compelling content and experience and being able to distribute that across all of our digital platforms. So obviously, like socials are very important to us. I'm very proud of the team. They've been sort of working on innovating new content and sort of elevating our content even more than it is now, even for performance marketing, for ads, and also, of course, for organic social. So I think it's very important that, what you experience, obviously, like in person, it gets translated to the millions of people who can't attend that one event in Las Vegas, right? Or in LA or in Chicago or wherever. It's just very important for us to be able to sort of translate that digitally so that people can experience these events, products, launches, etc., through the different digital platforms that we have.
So Tapcart's a mobile app provider, and Culture Kings has been a Tapcart customer. When I joined the company, I heard about a brand that was born in Australia that gave away a Lamborghini to launch their mobile app, and that definitely got my attention. Of course, Culture Kings, and the app was successful, seemingly from my vantage point. But a couple of years into my tenure, Culture Kings actually made the decision to move away from Tapcart, and I think that there were valid reasons for this. I'm curious to get your take on just kind of how the mobile app fits into the bigger picture,
Mhm.
why it came to be,
Yeah.
and what worked well, and also what were some of the limiting factors that drove decision to move in a different direction. And we can kind of take that in chunks and layers. But I
Yeah.
guess first of all, to be more succinct, from a brand leader perspective, does the mobile app fit into the kit? Like, what's the purpose? What's the why? What's it for from the brand's perspective and from the consumer's perspective?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think in this day and age, there are so many ways to sort of like reach your customers, right? You have SMS, you have email, socials, etc. And but I think at the top of the food chain for your most dedicated customers, that's where the app users are. So for any brand, not just for Culture Kings, your app users are by far your best customers, right? These are people who have loved the brand so much that they're willing to go download. Apps take up a lot of space on your phone, and you have this sort of direct line to these customers, right? So I think obviously for us, it's very important for us to always pay attention to what is our audience doing, what are they into, what launches are doing well, like what really resonates with them. And I think to have that sort of like, very we consider them like the VVIPs of Culture Kings, to have that kind of direct line to them and be able to push certain app exclusive drops and things like that to them, I think is incredibly valuable for us. Of course, and the first iteration, kind of the app, I think, obviously conceptually it was something that we're very excited about. But I think at the time, because of the unique nature of our business and because we have, for example, like GWPs with purchase, there were some limitations with the checkout, and obviously like certain features, even just like little certain like ways we like to display the labels on certain products to kind of designate that this is part of XYZ collection or these are world exclusives, right? So I think those were some limitations that sort of kind of led us to sunsetting it for a little bit. And then obviously now we're back, which is amazing. And now that it's kind of our second rodeo together, we've been able to work with the Tapcart team who have been amazing in helping us to implement these, I guess, more specific integrations and features that were needed. And, at the end of the day, because these are our by far our best customers, we want to give them the best experience, right? And so that was the main reason, was not being able to deliver the best experience was definitely kind of limiting for us. But now, in this second iteration, we are able to deliver that. And now, if you go on the app, we have in-app exclusives. We also have like a TikTok style feed and that sort of thing. And I know that, obviously, Jared from the Culture Kings team who oversees the app and ecom, he's been amazing and partnering with the Tapcart team and being able to really closely collaborate to be able to meet those needs and sort of customizations for our customers that they have come to know and expect from Culture Kings. So yeah, it's very exciting. Obviously, we're like very happy with just the performance of the app overall. And I know that Jared and the team are working on some innovations and more updates coming soon. So definitely really excited for that. And I think to sort of add on to that, from a brand marketing perspective, I think one of the big focuses for us this coming year in 2025 is really kind of honing in on the community building, especially in the US market. And I think the app is something that's super, important to that, right? Just being able to, for example, provide app users exclusive access to whether it's to product or to experiences, even, with our kind of amazing sort of roster of talent that we work with frequently, we can, give them those sort of kind of one-to-one experiences as well. So we'll be here for days if we're talking about different ideas for that, but definitely excited to, share that.
That's so cool. Is it fair to say that the platform was too rigid and didn't allow for creative expression, brand logic, nuance? It was just too in a box, and Culture Kings didn't view itself that way?
I mean, I wouldn't say that the platform was too rigid. I would say Culture Kings is very unique, and we try to be different, right? We're making a conscious and strategic effort to be different. And, that sort of bleeds through into if we have an app, we want it to be a certain way. So, I'm sure that the platform works really well for a lot of different brands and obviously it has, but just due to the nature of how Culture Kings is and, kind of how our leadership team is and just the sort of going back to the ethos of being very unique and disruptive. If you say, hey, here's the blueprint to what we can do, we're of course always going to say, well, what else can we do? How can we take it to like the next level? So yeah, of course, I'm very glad that, we're able to do that now. And I definitely think, that we have had different partners in the past, not for apps, but for, other functions or even like talent partnerships. I think they've also like grown a lot and been able to kind of exceed their comfort zones and be able to, become the best version or even better than what they had imagined. So
I appreciate that and the diplomatic way with which you share it. We do think that the platform was too limiting. And we believe that brands need more autonomy, need more control, need the ability to operate the way that they want to operate and to deliver the experience the way they want it delivered, however audacious, however, plain or vanilla they choose it to be.
yes.
And that's really the vision for this next iteration of the Tapcart platform. And Culture Kings really is a huge inspiration in driving that innovation on our side. So thank you for that and being a great customer and challenging us to innovate and be better as well. We really appreciate that.
Mhm.
We're coming in on time, but I'm curious to hear if there's any advice that you have for aspiring marketers out there that want to travel a brand path, that look at brands like Culture Kings, that look at badass operators like you and want to follow in that direction, in that path. Is there anything that you would share with a member of our audience that's on that journey, but a little behind you?
Yeah, yeah. I definitely think if you're very early on in your career, say for example, if you're in school currently or just, starting to look into what sort of professional paths you could take, I definitely recommend interning. It's just such a great way to get hands-on experience. And there's a lot that you can't learn from books or lectures, right? In the traditional sense. I think the best way to learn is to just essentially jump in the swimming pool and start swimming. And it's funny because some of our team, when they first started, they didn't know what a brand activation meant. They were like, "What is the activation? Can you describe like what that means?" But obviously, as marketers, we throw that word around all the time. And now they've become incredible marketers themselves. And I think my philosophy is always really just to like hit the ground running, right? And something that I really believe in is, the grass is always like the greenest where you're watering it. So wherever you are, the more time you spend just honing your skills and developing really amazing relationships, that's going to help you in the long run. And the second kind of part to that is definitely relationship building, right? No matter where you are and what field you're in, the relationships are or should be top priority because that's just going to help you build as a marketer, build the most compelling partnerships and launches and collaborations. And, a lot of things come together purely because of relationships. And, I think that's definitely my biggest takeaway. And even from my team, and I really encourage them to kind of go out and network and meet people. And, there's so many different people from all walks of life and that you can like learn from, right? And I'm always curious about brands. I'm always reading and looking into brands, like even not in necessarily even in the fashion industry. It could be in food, it could be in, I don't know, lighting, it could be in all these different sort of industries. And I just love the art of brand building. So, in a nutshell, I think just being able to get a lot of hands-on experience and being able to network, really well and build those sort of, I guess, like soft skills and build these relationships. Yeah, it's just very essential and can really steer the trajectory of your career in the long run.
Amazing. Well, it's been great getting to know you, and I look forward to continuing to build on this relationship. I feel like I have hours worth of questions on the partnership side, but we'll
Yep.
save that for another day, hopefully.
Yep.
And thank you so much again for
Thank
taking
you.
time out to come chat with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.